What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Kirsten Potenza, CEO and founder of Pound, the Rockout Workout. You're listening to The Big Green Couch, where I sit down with noisemakers across various industries to discuss different topics, to bring new ideas, fresh perspectives, and practical tips to you, our community. Let's get started. What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of The Big Green Couch. Today, we have a very special guest, Jenny Shatzle. Jenny's passion is to change the conversation on body image, self-worth, and the power of movement. Her ambition is teaching women to live the life they want, not the life they think they should. She is an author, a mother of twins, speaker, and a business owner. Her upcoming book, Breaking the Cycle, helps you get to the root of toxic cycles holding you back. Through tools, conversation, and mindset, Jenny helps you create solutions that will change your life forever. Motivational, authentic, and relatable, Jenny is a highly sought-after speaker and guide for women who want to make lasting change and impact in their own lives. She has been featured in dozens of media outlets worldwide and has 2 TEDx talks that had audiences on their feet. Jenny believes her true purpose in life is to help women feel good about themselves and empower everyone to change the conversation. She was originally introduced to me by a mutual friend. I am so grateful for the connection. Jenny is the real deal. She is raw. She is authentic. She is an absolute pleasure to follow online and know in real life. I'm so excited to share her and this conversation with you all today.
Before we start, or even you can put this on, whatever, I just want to say, it makes me want to cry. I've been listening to your podcast. I'm a huge fan.
Oh,
and
shut up.
I swear on my life, I feel like we were separated at birth. The way that you interview and you're just off the cuff. And when they emailed me and they were like, there's no interview questions, I'm like, thank God. I don't plan for anything. I just and they're so good.
Oh my God. That made me so happy. I got little goosebumps.
Yeah, I'm just a huge fan. And for me to get ready to do anything, I always go walk or run. And I was just listening to what is it? A LuLu Bread. Is that her name?
Yeah, Brood, yeah.
Brood. Oh my God. Well, I started crying on her story.
Yeah.
It was
I had to keep my shit together. I was literally just bawling on the other end, trying to hide it. It was amazing.
I mean, just all of it, and the guy from Barry's I'm a huge fan. I just hope you know.
Oh, thank you.
I'm actually super honored, and I'm a little nervous, but I'm you've got some huge, and Koya. I mean, I'm a fan. So just so you know, you should be so proud of yourself. You are doing amazing, and I hope that you're reflecting on that.
That means the world to me, and I feel like we've been so lucky to have all of our guests on. And this, the reason we wanted to do it in the first place is just the magic that happens when you're sitting with a good friend and having a real conversation that's not scripted. And it's just been awesome. I feel honored to even be able to have all these conversations and share them with our community, which is the ultimate goal, because as you know, all of our guests have kind of, there's some threading of the fitness industry, but there's music and there's wellness, and all of those things make up our lives and are really important. And so I've been grateful and honored myself to sit in this really rickety chair that I'm sitting in and talk to people.
You're doing a great job.
My dad made this chair. I should not say that.
I love that.
Okay, so we're gonna jump in. We both work in an industry that, no matter what we would like to believe, puts an immense amount of focus on the body, the perfect body. We live in a diet-obsessed world and a comparison culture that preys on the insecurities that tend to be natural to human nature historically, but definitely elevated because of social media and because of the way that we've been trained to share. How do you kind of in the most simple ways combat that on a daily basis through everything that you do?
My mission truly is to help women change the conversation on body image, self-worth, and the power of movement. And you nailed it when you said we live in a diet obsessed culture. And the problem is we're continuing the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not stopping it. We're not changing it. And especially if we're talking about moms, a lot of what we learned was from our childhood and what we overheard in our own homes or saw in our own parents or our sisters or whatever the kids said to us on the playground. And then we see it. And the problem is we've come to believe it. And it's become such a part of our dialogue that we are just passing it on to our daughters.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm taking a firm stand in that the conversation needs to change. And how we do this is so many different ways. But one is the conversation that we have with ourselves and the one that we have in our own homes. And, it's crazy that as women, we want better for our children. Yet, and especially as moms, we want better for our children, but a lot of times we're not willing to be better. And what I mean by that is, we would never put our child on a scale and say, okay, first thing in the morning, I want you to get on this piece of equipment, and due to the number, I'm going to tell you if you're worthy enough, if you're smart enough, if you're overall good enough. And this number is going to determine if you're going to have a good or bad day. We would never do that to a child, yet as grown adults, we will do that every morning.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it's this conversation that even starts at home. Like, we want better for our children, then why is the scale still in the bathroom? We want better for our children, yet we still restrict our food. We still constantly talk about, oh, my stomach's so big, my thighs so big, my arms are so big. And we're just focused always on what needs to change instead of actually these amazing parts of ourselves and our bodies and, really trying to spread that message.
I couldn't agree more. And I think, I'm about to have a kid, and I know this from my experience with children. They're the most observant beings on this planet. And whether we like to admit it or not, they take note of everything that we do. What kind of advice would you give to create that awareness? Like, I think it's so easy to go through your daily life and go through the motions and not recognize that some of the things that you're doing are having such a large impact on your children, like stepping on a scale every morning, or making certain comments that feel so natural to us. I know I've kind of checked myself multiple times with that in the last couple of months. How do we create that interpersonal awareness around those things so we can be, even if you don't have kids, more thoughtful of the way we're acting and speaking to and treating ourselves?
Absolutely. And this is for women in general. So not just moms, because it's how we interact with one another. Because the fact is, if we're continuing the conversation, it keeps spreading. And so one, it's dialogue that we have with other women. And unfortunately, we spend a lot of our time bonding with our family and friends over the negativity about ourselves. It's like we try to one up each other, right? It's like, oh my God, my stomach is so big, or look at my arms. And somebody's like, oh, well, you haven't seen this body naked. And it's just like, we keep going, like, look at these wrinkles. Oh my gosh, I'm looking so old, or I used to weigh this, or and it's like, we're trying to one up each other by disrespecting ourselves, and we bond over it. And so I think one of the things is the dialogue and the conversation between women needs to change. Like, we're smarter than this. We are smart, driven, incredible women, and we have more to talk about than our freaking stomachs and our big booties. And I say this all the time, and I'm very much about tough love, and I'm a truth speaker. I kind of just say what comes out. But I'm just going to be honest, like, men don't sit around and talk about their big asses.
No.
We have to level up as women. And so I feel very strongly that we're better than this. And so why aren't we talking about what's really going on with your life? What is going on with your relationship? And to be honest, it's easier to talk about our bodies or food or what we don't like about ourselves than talking about the important issues. So kind of reframing that. And when I say all this too, I want everybody to know, like, I can spew this stuff out. And I always say we teach what we also need to learn. And so I'm in this on the daily. Like, I have to change the conversation for myself. I've been in the fitness industry for 20 years and I grew up in this. And so we have a lot of unlearning to do. So I say all of these things, but it's also a constant reminder for myself because I'm in it too and constantly have to be changing the conversation.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that I've kind of observed within myself, along with that, women, because of the way that we were raised and kind of culturally, we also tend to, whether it's like negative conversations about other people or drama, those are parts of us that happen not necessarily because we want to. Some people view them as currency. Some people use certain type of information to connect with others. So I think that I know this sounds silly, but like, if you know you're going to hang out with your friends, preparing thoughtful questions to ask them and truly listening, whether sometimes you want to relate to people. So you're like, oh yeah, your butt, well, look at mine. Like, that's natural. But I think checking yourself in those ways and coming prepared might be helpful too. It's something that I've tried to be more aware of myself.
I love that. I've never actually thought about like preparing questions. I love that. One way too I look at it is it's very empowering to shut down a conversation, and we don't have to, like, people would say, well, then are you going to be out of the circle? Then are people going to get upset? And you don't need to do it in a negative way. Like, I'm all about being positive and coming from a place of love and awareness, because once we're aware of something, that's where we can make the choice to either keep going down that same road or make a different choice. And so I believe like awareness is the number one how we change, is once you're aware of like, oh yeah, I do talk like that. Oh yeah, I do that. And so, reminding yourself that it's empowering to want your friends to level up. Like, we're better than this. Let's talk about the important stuff. And so for me, it's a way to get my friends to, level up, but also the first thought that comes into our mind is what we've been programmed to think. So like you said, like, it's really easy to bond over these things because we've pretty much done it for most of us. And I don't want to generalize, but for a lot of us, our entire lives. So it's easy to just step back into it and be like, oh yeah, and agree with it. But the first thought that comes into our mind is what we've been programmed to think. And the second is who we choose to be. Yeah. So I like to remind myself of that. Like, I have a lot of stuff that still comes up. And then I get, through that awareness, I get to choose, oh, the next thing that comes out of my mouth is actually who I want to be. So I get to change that because this is the way I've been programmed, but this is who I want to be. So yeah, I could agree with you on my big butt and my stomach and all the things, but oh yeah, nope, that's old programming. This is who I want to be. And this is the conversations I want to have.
What a beautiful point. That first thought is not necessarily authenticity, but programming. And I think it's so hard I know when I talk to people, I get so excited, but it's so hard to just take a beat and check yourself. And I think that might be the first step in that awareness. I think that's an incredible and very simple way to look at it.
And I think, we beat it. We're so, as women, again, I'm trying not to generalize. And a lot of this comes from my own story. So when I say this, no, it's coming from my personal story. But as women, we are very guilt and shame and driven on ourselves and really hard on ourselves. So, we think we're bad people, or we're not doing enough, or we're not good enough. And if you can take a step back and be like, oh yes, that's part of my programming. So that's actually not my fault. And now I get to make a different choice. It really does change the perspective.
Yeah. It's empowering too. I think that one of the coolest things to be able to do with a group of friends who you love and respect is call yourself out verbally. Like, oh man, I was just doing this. Sorry, you guys. It's simple, but it's empowering to do yourself. And then it kind of opens up the door for for everybody else. And I think that's a ripple effect that has a lot more strength than we might think.
Absolutely.
So I want to talk about something. I was listening to your, I think it was 2016 TED Talk, and you told this story about your introduction to teaching group fitness, which um, a lot of things came up for me, but specifically about receiving feedback. Jenny's too loud, and it really spoke to me. I think as women, we are told constantly, either directly or through media and messaging, to be quiet, to be proper, to stay in line. Those seem like harsh things when said out loud, but I think they're very, very true. And at Pound, our motto is make noise, and it doesn't always mean directly be loud, but rather be fearless enough to be exactly who you are. How, because and you can retell that story, I can just imagine that it's tough to break through those barriers with negative feedback, but how did you stay strong to the woman you knew you were then and also now, and how do you check yourself when you feel like you're being influenced in the wrong direction? Because negative feedback is usually what pushes us in the direction of the person we are not, rather than the person that we are.
Wow, great questions. Um, yeah, and I've told this story a lot. And again, you can just go watch the TED Talk. But yeah, so when I first started group fitness, and I never like wanted to be in group fitness. I was 19 and got a job working at the front desk of Gold's Gym, and because I loved to take group fitness, so I got the job so I could take free classes because I was a broke college student. And the group fitness director actually came up to me and said, "You're loud. People seem to like you. You have rhythm. Let me teach you how to teach." And for the longest time, I said no because I was insecure. This woman I looked to as like, she was everything I wasn't. She was confident. She was smart. She was all the things. So anyway, she talked me into doing it. And I did kind of like an internship with her. And once I started teaching, everybody started walking out of my classrooms or walking out of my class. And so, one day she came up to me and said, there's all these comments and they're all about you. And they were all negative. And it was, Jenny's too loud. Where's Shanda? That was the woman's name. Everybody loved her. They wanted her back. And I was on the brink of tears. And I just said to her, why would you read these comments to me? Are you trying to break me? Are you trying to make me quit? And it was at that moment she looked at me and said, she had asked me a couple questions, and she said, "Do you love people?" Which I do. And I said, yes. And she said, "Do you love music?" And I said, yes. And she said, "But do you like you?" And nobody had, honestly, in my life ever asked me if I liked myself or loved myself. And she said, "You're trying too hard to be me, and you're not being authentically you. Like, you need to embrace your loudness and everything about you."
Mm.
And at that moment, something switched for me. And so I then went into it and started teaching classes just from a really authentic place. And I was 19. I was also very naive. And so
Mm-hmm.
at that point, I was like, screw it, let's just do this. And so I feel like once that happened, my classes became super popular. And I say this all the time. It was like a VIP nightclub. You had to wait in line to get in. And it was, and then my career just took off from there. And I did personal training, but I always loved groups. And that's where I really thrive like I said, I love energy. I love people. I love music, just like you. That's why I love your classes so much.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, so I've owned my own gym in Santa Barbara now with my business partner for 7 years, almost 8 years. And it's amazing. Obviously we're in COVID right now, so things are brutal, but, yeah. And now I wrote a book and I'm on a whole other adventure. And so, I like to say, I heard this somewhere and it always sticks with me: new level, new devil. So every time you level up, your stuff comes up.
Oh my God, that's very true.
Right? Isn't that so
That's the
true?
truest thing I've ever heard in my life.
And let me tell you, everybody who's listening, you can do all the work. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sober. I've done all of the therapy. I mean, I'm a mom of twins. I mean, I've done all the things. And new level, new devil. Like I mean, this is what I talk about for a living, is helping women change this conversation.
Yeah.
And my stuff still comes up, but that's truly what it's about, is that it is work every day for everybody. And people look at other people and think, oh my gosh, they have it together and they're so this and so that. And it's like, no, we've all got our own struggles. We're all in this together. And that's a huge reminder for me. So in the therapy world, they call this, I'm kind of going off on a tangent because this is just how I roll, but they call this your shadow self. And your shadow self it's like something that drives you crazy in other people because you are either scared you're going to become that, or it's who you used to be. And so for me, what really irks me, and I try to come from a place of like no judgment. And again, with the judgment piece, I like if I'm going to judge somebody, I go back to that. Oh, like if I'm looking at somebody across the street and I think, oh my God, what are they wearing? I stop and think, oh, that's what I've been programmed to think. And now I get to choose what I'm going to do. And then I'm like, whose business? Why should I care what they're wearing? Right. So then I get to make that choice. So I'd really try to come from a place of no judgment. With that being said, something that really irks me, and especially with like, social media and being online, is people who are not authentic and people who say one thing but do another. Because my biggest fear is that I am not the model, that I am not modeling what I tell other people.
Yeah.
So my number one is that I'm authentically doing what I say I'm doing, or what I'm trying to tell other people that this will help. And so for me, that really puts it in check of like what I'm doing and how I'm living my life needs to be in alignment with my modeling. Like my modeling for my children is number one. Who I am, I can't change my children. All I can do is change myself, and hopefully they pick up on it.
Yeah.
But I have to be that model for them.
I'm going to touch on a couple things that you just said because they're brilliant. The new level, new devil. I mean, that is, first of all, I think the moment that you recognize that is true and you find joy in it, which is if I all of a sudden have everything in my life figured out, how effing boring is my life going to be from now till the end of it? And I say this all the time, like as you get older, things don't get easier, they get more complicated, and new layers of who you are and who you become are unveiled. And you can completely ignore them, but once you start unpacking them and confronting them, life just becomes that much better. And I love just the quick saying and the reality of the truth in that. The second thing, I just want to say this because I've found struggle in this, even watching businesses and companies and people go through COVID. The thing that people fear the most is change. Yeah. So if you're a group fitness instructor teaching for the first time, people are going to be fearful of the differences between you and another person, and give them time. And it brings me to something I really want to talk about, because that you just brought up. I think it's, and maybe it's not, but I think it's kind of a common misconception that group fitness instructors are performers and people who love the spotlight or being in front of a room of people. And in many cases, that's totally true. For me, it was the complete opposite. And I think it's important for people around us and in our industry to understand and to hear stories like that. For me, teaching group fitness was and still is one of the most intimidating tasks that I'll ever do. If you'd asked anybody in my family if I'd be in front of a camera or a group of people at a younger age, they would have said absolutely not. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I think there's so many people around the world, and we even get these questions at Pound on a daily basis. I'm not fit enough to teach. I'm not good enough to teach. I don't like being in front of a group of people. Those are, to me, the best teachers. If you can see yourself in your instructor, you're on the right path. But what advice would you give to somebody who's who's sitting in that right now and thinking they might not be good enough or right for that role?
Oh, this is like in any role. This isn't just in group fitness. I mean, and especially if I am going to direct the conversation to women, we have this underlying piece for a lot of us. Again, I'm not trying to generalize, but again, this is a lot of my story, is not feeling like we're deserving enough or good enough or smart enough. I mean, even in like a job, if you take, I mean, this is a proven fact. If you put out a resume and you list all the qualifications, when a man sees it, he could have, if the qualifications is, it's 20, the list is 20 things long. A man will see 5 of those and think, yeah, I'm going to apply to that. A woman will qualify for every single one except for maybe not one. And she'll think, I'm not ready. I'm not smart enough. I can't do that. And that is proven. And this is where, again, the conversation needs to change, is it's walking through that fear. And it's also like, a lot of my book is about going to back to your story and getting to the root of your issue of why we do things, like why we drink to numb out, why we binge, why we shop, why we pill pop, whatever it is you're doing. But we're trying to numb out from the root issue. And a lot of the times it's because our root issue is we don't feel like we're good enough. In today's society too, it also comes down to like, you talked about this in one of your podcasts. It's like the hustle. Like we feel like we have to be hustling all the time and doing all the things because we feel like if we're not actually like in pain and exhausted and just, totally depleted, then we're not deserving of success, which is not the truth. So it's a lot of us stepping up and realizing that we are good enough and our worth is about us taking that step forward. It's new level, new devil, and the fear comes up, but you still step forward and you still do it, even with all your insecurities up, even with all those things. So one tool that I have, and I didn't come up with this, like there's a ton of different ways, like people have put Band-Aids on their wrist and you snap it, but one thing that has really worked for me is I name that negative voice in my head. And so when my body issues come up, when I think that I'm not good enough or that I can't do it or I shouldn't go for it, I name that voice in my head and I say, not today, Tiffany. And then I move forward because again, Tiffany's or Terry or Denise or Karen or whatever you want to call that person, it's the reminder to me that Tiffany is my old programming.
Yeah.
And that when I can say not today, like when I look in the mirror and think, man, you've got, look at that cellulite, you could lose 10 pounds, which this stuff still comes up for everybody. I say, not today, Tiffany. I am good enough as I am. And as women, we really have a problem giving ourselves permission to be who we are.
I was just going to say, it gives you the power. You take the power back when you name it something else. I think that's amazing advice. So I'm going to read your book because I want to talk about that. So Breaking the Cycle, apparently arriving today. I'm very, very, very excited to read it. But it's an unfiltered look into why we have and why we keep self-sabotaging habits, negative self-talk, and ultimately procrastinate on moving forward in our own lives, which I feel like has become potentially even more difficult in the last 6 months, being in the midst of a pandemic. And it's a story of your life with a twist on how readers can change their own lives. I want to know, because I'm always so intrigued about what pushes you to write a book, because I feel like it's probably scary to take that first, action, but like going through it, what inspired you to write it? What was the process of writing it like? Did it come easy? Did it take a long time? Lots of questions all at once.
I love that. That's where I roll. Oh my gosh, writing a book is so brutal. It's awful. And, now that it's out, I'm so excited. It took me years. And the thing is, we had a little bit of a strategy to launch it before COVID because I had a bunch of speaking gigs. And so we had built we were going to do this whole huge thing in Santa Barbara and then travel around. And then COVID happened. And so we sat on it. And then, we were like, screw it. You can't really have a strategy at this point. So we put it out there, and I got to be honest, I'm so excited about it. And it was so difficult. So it took me years to write. And once we put it out, people were like, "Did you write a book during COVID?" I'm like, "Heck no." I'm lucky if I like get showered during COVID. Okay. So definitely did not write the book during COVID, although we launched it just last week, and it's been amazing. And the feedback has been excellent. It's, for me, it was such a brutal process because, again, new level, new devil is my insecurities of not being smart enough. I was never good in school. I never considered myself a writer. And I've done a ton of blogs that have gone to like some pretty big places, but I still didn't consider myself a writer. And I always said I was, not a good student. And so all that stuff came back. And so, but my mission is to help women and to really help other women feel seen. And, my main why behind this is we're all struggling with something, and we feel so alone in it a lot of the times. And so the book is every chapter. It is a quick, easy read, which is what I like. And it's very raw. It's very real. And every chapter is a story about my life. And then at the end of each chapter are 3 questions that you need to answer. So the goal is that you relate to something I'm talking about, whether it's like, my issues with my dad or my abusive college boyfriend or starting my business. And then you turn the story back on yourself. So it's about you doing the work and getting to the root of your story. And, I was a rock bottom alcoholic, like taking shots of vodka at 8 a.m. while having a fitness career, a successful fitness career, mind you. So I was living a double life. I was a total hypocrite. I was all of these things, and I hit rock bottom. And so it's really my story on hitting rock bottom and coming through it. But I had to deal with a lot of my issues, and I still have to deal with a lot of those issues. So writing the book is very difficult. And I'll even be honest, is the first review that came back that was so positive. It's crazy how we do this to ourselves. And when I tell you this, it's because to reemphasize that I am in this with you. Once I got that first review, it was amazing. She was like, "This book is amazing. I'm doing the work. I've come up with all these issues, the root of my problem." And I'm like, "Oh, this is awesome. Just wait till the negative reviews start coming." And so immediately I completely dismissed this woman's like epiphany and this beautiful, it's the reason I wrote the book. And I totally dismissed that because I'm like, wait for the shoe.
You're waiting for the bad news.
Yeah. And so often I think in life we do that, no matter, in our careers, like, you could have 99 people tell you something good and 1 negative comment, and it's all you can focus on. And once you do that, you actually are bypassing all the people that need you and the people that want you in their life. And so again, it was, I by doing the work, the awareness came up, and then I'm able to stop and be like, "Oh yeah, this is what I'm doing. This is old programming. That's not where we're going." And so it's been a beautiful thing. Writing the book took me years. It was very difficult, but I'm really excited it's out. And I hope that people want to read it and pick it up and give me their feedback.
I love it. I can't wait to read it. And I think the thing that you recognize, hopefully, as you get older is how we're more similar than we are different. And I think hearing people's stories and struggles and journeys help us become more comfortable with our own. And I can imagine how vulnerable you probably were with this book, because you are in your everyday life. You're one of my favorite people to follow on social media, because I just get it's like this probably creepy, but I get this like refreshed feeling when I read or listen to your posts. And I almost feel like I don't know if push yourself is the right way to say it, but push yourself to share things that are real and relatable, and not in like a sugar coated, filtered way. I don't know. It's refreshing.
I appreciate that very much.
How'd you get there? Tell me more about like your relationship with social media and the decisions that.
Well, the relationship with social media is so hard.
So weird, right?
Yeah, it's so weird. It's definitely this love-hate thing. But again, and I've had people tell me, you got to make it more professional. You got to clean it up. You got to do this. You got to do that. But That's not authentically me. Like I am who I am, and that's what I put out to the world because that's what I want to see in people. I want to hear your story. Like it means, I mean, I answer every message I get because I want to hear what you're struggling through because I've probably been there, and two, like as women, these are the real conversations. And so I put my whole life out there. I mean, my struggle with alcohol, the business, having a miscarriage, having twins, my marriage, all the things. And so because for me, this is what I want to hear in other people. So it's what I put out there. And it's, it is hard. It does get overwhelming, and it does, again, it's like, you got to take the reminder, we all say this, and you've said this plenty of times on the podcast is, you got to unfollow people that don't make you feel good. And so, even like super successful people that make me feel like I'm not doing enough. First of all, those are my issues, not theirs.
Yeah.
But when I'm in that place and feeling like that, I'm not going to continue to look at it.
Yeah.
Again, the conversation, like we all feel anxiety and depression, and we need to sit with those feelings. I'm big about like, you got to sit with those feelings and you can't bypass it and you got to feel it. But a lot of times we just travel down the downward spiral and we just keep going. Like for me, if I'm feeling anxiety with social media, I need to turn it off and walk away. Yet so often we will sit and just keep looking.
Yeah.
It's even like, after I did my first TED Talk, I actually had a Brene Brown moment. And this was even before her, her first speech about this was after my first TED Talk, my business partner came to me and he said, whatever you do, don't look at the comments on the TED Talk.
Mm.
And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, what do you think And so of course I went home, and literally the whole TED Talk was about like embracing who you are. And it was about embracing my loudness and owning who you are. And here I am on the computer bawling at like just horrible comments to me. Like, who wears yoga pants to do a TED Talk? Oh, this lady's so loud. I can't even, there were awful things. And again, like, how is that helping me in any way? Right? So I've just spent an entire day and all my energy and all my time, which are my two greatest assets, my energy and my time. And now I have given them these angry people on the internet who I'm never going to change their mind. And why would I want to? Like, those are my people, right? But now I've just given them everything I have. And so for me, that was a huge learning experience. And so for me, I don't ever want to go back to that place. And so now I truly believe, like, if there's angry people on the internet, first of all, I feel horrible for them. I'm so sorry. Like, I want to give you a hug and then I want to get 100 feet away because I don't want to put on that energy. So I need to turn it off. I need to walk away because our two greatest assets are time and energy. And so often we're giving them to the wrong people and the wrong situations.
Yes to all of that. I really do believe there's a lot of beauty and good things that happen in social media. But if we allow it to own us and own our time and own our energy, we're screwed. And I know it's not as simple as that. It's a difficult relation for everybody. So we are in I was gonna say the middle of a pandemic. I don't know where the freak we are within this, but I personally, it's been such a difficult time. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that, but I for business, personal life, everything. But I do think that there are so many silver linings in anything that happens that's not easy or difficult. What has home life been for you? You have a husband, you have twins, you own a business. What has the experience in general been like, and kind of biggest struggles and also silver linings?
Literally go back to you just have to take it one day at a time. I have our twins turned 3 on June 4th. So they just turned 3, and
congrats.
Thank you. And my husband's a firefighter, so he's gone a lot, and he's obviously still working through all this. It's, it's one day at a time, and it's just like everybody, like it's ups and downs. And I just, our business was shut down for 3 months. We made $0 coming in the gym wise. And then, we opened up again and we fully restructured our whole business. And it was beautiful. Like we made pods and I mean, everybody was spaced out and the people who chose to come back were loving it. We thought it was really safe. It was working really well. And the hardest part during all this, and I'll be honest, business wise, is that there's just no plan. Like I was, especially the second time we got shut down, I was in the gym teaching a class and I come out and there's like a million texts and my business partner shows up and is like, we just got shut down again. And we have no like, hey, we're going to revisit this at the end of the month, or we're going to just look into these options, right? Like I definitely do not have the answers, but it's hard not knowing anything. And as a business, we hear when the public hears. And so that's a struggle. With that being said, so much is out of our control. So what are we going to do? We going to sit in it and we chose to pivot and we're doing Zoom where our city of Santa Barbara has allowed outdoor classes. So we're doing Zooms, we're doing outdoor classes. So business wise, we've pivoted. And now for me, I'm like, this is a great time for me to sit and chat with women about what's really going on. And, a lot of stuff is coming up for all of us, our anxiety, our body issues, our home life, our relationships. And so this is where I think this is an excellent time to like put it out on the table and let's be talking about it. Because when you're home with your kids and your spouse, dang, it's like, oh, all those things you've swept under the rug are no longer under. Like the rug has lifted, the drawer has open. And so I really want to take this as an opportunity to, build a community of women where we have real conversations, but we're making real change. And so that's my silver lining for this is I think it's time. And I think this is how we're going to move forward is we look at these problems, we talk about these problems, and then we decide how we're going to move forward.
The visual of that was incredible. It's so true. And for me, it's leading up to starting a family and being with my husband so much. It's like there isn't a better time to be forced to face all of those things in preparation for, being a better team and partnership and preparing for a child. And those are the good things, even though they're the more difficult things. Okay, $1 million mom question. How do you find time for yourself? And I'm going to say this before you answer. If you, our community, do not follow Jenny already, please do so, because I'm all about actionable, tangible things that we can do. And you give so many amazing little nuggets, from setting an alarm clock for X amount of minutes to clean up your house, to how you kind of balance everything with your twins. But what does it look like? What does giving your time, yourself time look like in these times?
I love that. Like I said, I like small, easy, actionable items because that's how I roll. I'm very, my attention span's like 5 minutes, so I'm always. So a couple things.
We are the same person.
We are the same person. I do interviews. I'm like going in a million directions. So a couple things is you mentioned the cleanup. So I do this. I post it. I think people love just to see the before because I'll be honest. Like I hate cleaning. I actually don't really love cooking. I'm trying to change that. I'm not very domestic. So my 10-minute cleanup I started because when the kids go to bed and you're so exhausted, and again, my husband's gone a lot. So the end of the night, you're just so exhausted. And the last thing you want to do is clean your house. But then, you don't want to wake up to a disaster. So I set the kitchen stove for 10 minutes and I clean up as much as I can, as fast as I can. And then I'm done. And so then I have the rest of the night to myself and I can do what I want to do. The other thing is truly, if you have kids, and even if you don't, I get up before my kids. It's my time. I have to at least have a half an hour to myself. And I love coffee. So I make coffee. I read for 10 minutes. I journal for 10 minutes and I meditate for 5 minutes. So I try to take 30 minutes. And again, this is not, I can say all this stuff. It does not happen every day. But on the days that it does, I definitely find I have a better day. Also, to all the women out there, you have to ask for what you need.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm huge on communication with your partner. And this is, again, a conversation that how you communicate with your partner is how you're teaching your children to communicate. So for me, it's asking my husband for what I need. And that is time off. Like I have no problem saying, I don't love being a mom all the time. and I need my time. So literally when I turned 40, my husband's like, what do you want to do? I said, I want to go to Santa Monica for the weekend by myself. And that's what I did for my 40th birthday. And it was amazing. It was the best. And so like Mother's Day, my birthday, I always ask for the same thing, a night away in a hotel. And again, that's a lot of privilege, but even like, asking the neighbors to take the kids for an hour so you can go for a walk or a jog. It's like we have this thing a lot of times in that if we asking for help, we think we're weak and we have to do it all and we got to be super women. And especially in mom life, like when you're trying to do it all that happens is that you're resentful and you're angry.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, you know what? I do need you to do the laundry. Hey, you know what? I'd really appreciate it if when you came home, you cleaned the kitchen and unloaded the dishwasher because I really need help with that. And the beauty is my husband is a great communicator, but I really believe it's how we deliver things. And so when as women and as moms, when we don't ask for what we need, we get resentful and angry and it builds up until we explode. And anytime you're pointing the finger at somebody like, well, you didn't do this and you don't have your wall comes up and you shut down.
Yep.
No matter what, like if I'm saying that to him or he's saying that to me or even my business partner or my coworkers, anytime somebody points a finger, you get defensive. And so we've really worked on like, hey, I'm really struggling. And so could you help me do this? And inherently as humans, we want to help each other. And so when you turn the conversation around to be like, hey, I need your help. Could you do the laundry? It's like, yeah, okay, yes, because I would like to help you. And so I think that's been a game changer. But asking for what you need and I'll be honest, motherhood has been is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I feel like I didn't get my head above water for 2 years. Like, and I'm not trying to scare you because I know
No, it's okay. It's okay.
but also I want to be brutally honest because
Yeah.
if anyone else feels that way, like again, when I hear that from other people, I think, man, I feel so seen because I struggled for 2 years. It was overwhelming. And especially when my career was such a huge part of my identity and who I was. And so, for that to change, it's like my career changed, became a mom, it's all the things. And it was hard and it was a struggle. And I talk about that a lot because I think we should be.
Kind of had a little bit more to do with marriage, but I think that I was just talking to a coworker about this the other day. There's so much hidden shame, I guess, within your relationships and your marriage. There's so much that we don't share about our relationships because we are ashamed or don't want to reveal too much or don't want to be too vulnerable. The reality is that each and every relationship has their stories, has those levels of unshareable or shareable information. And I also love how you speak about marriage. You're very transparent about it. I think one of the coolest things I remember, I feel like you were just like, if you want to have sex or need it, just ask for it. Like, that's not something that couples or people or humans talk about. And it's one of the more important pieces, intimacy at least, within a relationship. And we're all very fearful to kind of touch it. Other than asking for what you need and being able to communicate, what are two other tips that you'd give our listeners for marriage? Because especially in the place that we're in today, working from home, being at home, evolving into a different way of living, at least for now, I can imagine it's become that much more difficult for relationships around the world. So what are two other kind of bits of advice that you might give?
So, yeah, asking for what you need and, kind of goes into communication, but also listening. Like I'm really, I'm not the best listener because I love to talk. And, so really listening, it has been a huge one for me. And I know this sounds so cheesy, but you guys, like it took me forever to do this. And I finally did it. Even then I made my husband do it and he rolled his eyes and then he finally did it. Have you ever done the love languages? Like the
Yes.
love?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
guys, we should all be doing this because
Yeah.
so again, I was like, oh, whatever. And even my husband, and then we did it. And it's like, so my love language is tasks. Like when my husband cleans the house, that to me is like okay, get naked. Like, let's do this.
Yes.
Like, that is for me,
Same.
turn on. You're like doing stuff for me, like unloading the dishwasher and all of that. That is it for me. And his is touch. So his is sex. Like that is his.
I think that there's a lot of tools like that that are so helpful. I talk about this woman all the time, but Esther Perel, she has a podcast where you listen in on her therapy sessions, and I've learned so much about relationships just through listening to other people's experiences, which is why I think we should talk about it more. Okay, last very quick fire round of questions. Current book you're reading?
Oh, well, for the second time, Untamed.
Oh, nice.
It's my number one. Glennon Doyle Melton is my number one. She's like, she's everything.
In the middle of it right now, amongst the baby books that I'm reading.
Can I give you a little baby book advice?
Yes.
Stop reading them.
Oh my God. I'm not going to even respond to that because I could talk about it for an hour. Baby books are horrible.
They're horrible and they scare the hell out of you. And then even like you have the baby and then you get the app and like, and we had preemies. So our girls were born 2 months early but even the app, and then you're like, oh my gosh, well, they're not doing this. It's horrible. And then any person with kids older than 3 will tell you like, mom intuition is real. You're going to figure it out. But especially your first, you freak out. I'm telling you, do not download the apps. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sidebar.
I'm with you. Current favorite podcast?
Yours.
No.
Yes. And I'm loving, what is her name from Will and Grace? Deborah Messing? No, is it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So they started a podcast called Dissenters from like RBGs, like I Dissent.
Amazing.
And so she started with the woman who started I Vote, which is a really great, I'm huge on getting people registered to vote. And so, and I'm huge on Moms Demand Action and gun control. And so they have an amazing podcast.
I am 100% looking into that. I just started listening to Michelle Obama's, which was the first time I've laughed out loud in a podcast in a while. Current favorite song?
Current favorite song? Oh, I love that. Oh, you're going to love this. I tell everybody, I'm a 40-year-old woman, and I love the Jonas Brothers. I'm a little older, so I didn't like them when they were like young. And now they came out with some, and I can't remember the name of the song. Also, you can't remember anything when you have kids. But yeah, they have some new song that I really like.
I'll Google it.
Yeah.
Last question, current favorite twin moment or memory?
Oh. So I've been trying to like not snap at my children and trying to have, which again, this something I'm working on, but I tend to I can lose my cool. And so we have conversations now and I say, Hope, Haven, mom is getting very frustrated. So could you please put your ears on and listen? And literally last night, my daughter Hope looked at me and she said, Mom, I'm getting very frustrated.
Oh. Could
you please stop? And I was like, oh, dang.
See?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
They're so cute, by the way.
So cute. Yes.
Where can our wonderful community find you in all of the places?
Oh, thank you. Well, my main place is Instagram. And I'm on Facebook, but not on it too much. So let's just scratch that. Let's go Instagram. I do have a YouTube channel. It's got like workouts and stuff, but mainly the conversation, especially like the one we're having that I would love people to look and participate in is on Instagram. So it's just Jenny Shatzle. The link to my book is in there. You can find it on Amazon, but also you can just go to my link. And if you want a signed copy, you can order it from me and I'll get you a signed copy. Yeah, find me on Instagram.
Yes, please. Thank you so much.
I love you so much. Thank you.
I love you too. This was amazing. And I know will be very, very helpful for everybody, especially in these times.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Big Green Couch. Remember to subscribe to our podcast on either iTunes or Spotify and to follow us on Instagram at The Big Green Couch.